Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement. Your no-hype source for financial advice and making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement on this wonderful holiday weekend. I'm Jeff Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services. Our offices are located in beautiful downtown Olivet, Missouri. I am a 40-plus year veteran of the financial services area, a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager. And I'm joined this week and every single week by my partner, my oldest prodigal daughter, Aaron Lapidus, who also is a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager, and Robert Markham, our life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist.
Good morning.
Good morning. We hope our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan that has several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate. Second is to deliver a reliable stream of income, one that they can count on, so they can do all the things they'd like to do during retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, with Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us retirement coaches. Gang, good morning. It's interesting. We've got a big holiday weekend and they're going to figure out the debt ceiling situation weekend, right?
Well, it's figured out all right.
Raise the roof.
Yeah. That's, I've been reading some, I guess I'll call it commentaries because there are no real facts that are out at this particular moment. And it seems like they're certainly not trying to kick the can down the road, but they're certainly making the can a lot bigger. There's no real savings that are involved in here, and it's a lot of posturing and not a whole lot of stuff.
Sounds about right.
That's what they call politics, right?
Something like that.
Okay. Well, in either case, there'll be a resolution to this soon. There always is. And I think, at least in my mind, the primary reason is because these folks that are making the decision want to get voted back into office. So they're certainly going to want to avoid bad things happening, which is good. In either case, we do want to remind everybody that all of our clients are folks like you. They're our listeners. They're 55 and older. They would like to retire, or they're already retired. And as Aaron mentioned, our goal is to create a game plan for them so they can have a fun and hopefully financially secure and worry-free retirement. And there are lots of ways, if you'd like to keep in touch with us during the week.
That's right. Log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you can click on the Contact Us button. Send us an email with a request for a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. In the lower left-hand side of the screen, you can click on the Sign Up button that appears. Sign up for our monthly newsletter. We call it the Coach's Corner. We release one every single month by email, and we also keep them logged on the website, so you are more than welcome to peruse past newsletters. We are in the very last week, huh?
Last week of the May Coach's Corner, so you're definitely going to want to check that out. Some great articles for you there. Our first one is your reasons to roll, your employer-sponsored retirement plans. If you have a 401k, 403b, or government-sponsored 457 plan, depending on your situation. You may want to roll it over into a new plan, self-directed IRA. Gives you a great overview on some reasons you might want to and some reasons you might not. And our next article would be how taxes impact your retirement income strategy. Great article in there, whether your accounts are taxable, tax deferred, or tax free. You're definitely going to want to check out this article. It's got some great tips and tricks on how you want to manage that strategy in your retirement. And after that, we have yours, mine, and ours, financial tips for blended families. And we have a little bit of an expanded segment on just this topic coming up. So that's going to be a real treat. And then finally, is a mortgage recast right for you? It's an alternative to refinancing, and it's a strategy you may find useful in helping pay down your mortgage.
Or just reduce your monthly outflows.
Absolutely.
We call it the Coach's Corner, easy to access. Just go to our website, jblfinancial.com. Click on that Coach's Corner newsletter icon at the bottom of the page, or you'll find it also on other pages as you open them in our website. We do want to remind everybody that the Contact Us section is very important. It's a way that you can ask questions. You can contact us to contact you about a coaching session.
Right.
And we receive lots of those every single week, which is fun. And I do want to remind everybody that all the content that we have, things we discuss, they all come from either website submissions or coaching sessions, either with clients or prospective clients during the week. And we think they're fun and usually very timely. So we do appreciate your listening this morning. We are live and local. So what's more important is what's on your mind. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the usually hot, going to heat up, I'm sure, later this hour.
That's right.
Text line again, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And while we're waiting for your calls and your texts, last week, just like in many weeks previous, Aaron and I are often asked this question: are we retirement rock stars? And this is a term that I coined, I don't even know, honey, what do you think, 6-7 years ago?
It's been a while.
Yeah, something that we're kind of described. What is a rock star in retirement? Well, they're really somebody that has more capital or income flow than they need to maintain the lifestyle that they have. And so what we want to do is take the opportunity to talk about our rock stars of the week, some folks that we recently visited with from Kirkwood.
Joe is 64 years old, and his wife, Judy, is 61. They have $1.8 million in pre-tax retirement assets and about $120,000 in Roth assets. They also are holding $140,000 in personal savings, and the great news is they have no mortgage and only about $20,000 in credit card debt.
Woohoo!
So it sounds
wow,
like...
that's a good one.
It's a good one, Rob. You've been practicing. So I was going to say, it's interesting because it sounds on the offset. Maybe they are. How could they not be rock stars?
No mortgage.
No mortgage. But again, Joe's 64 and Judy's 61.
So they're babies.
Yeah, they're still babies. They're not normal retirement age. But they're wondering, can they get out? And let's talk about the numbers.
Right. They're a little concerned about this gap that they both have between Social Security and when they'd like to retire. So when we chatted with Joe and Judy, they mentioned that their income needs about $7,000 a month. And they really got to that by realizing that, they weren't really saving anything in addition to what they were putting into their retirement accounts at this point. So they're spending the paychecks that they were bringing home. So we know that we need to increase that $7,000 a month to incorporate taxes in retirement because the majority of their assets are in pre-tax accounts held with their employers. So when we gross that $7,000 up by 20%, we need about $8,400 a month to maintain their current lifestyle. Joe's security benefit at normal retirement age, which is about 3 years from now, will be $3,200 a month. when Judy reaches normal retirement age 6 years from now, her benefit is going to be $1,600 a month. So it looks like Judy's going to be taking the spousal benefit.
Right.
Or her ultimate goal is to take the spousal benefit. So that leaves Joe and Judy with about a $3,600 a month deficit. The $8,400 when we subtract out both Social Security benefits leaves us about $3,600 a month, which leaves us about $43,200 annually of deficit that we'll need to help make up. Using a prudent rate of withdrawal of about 4%, we know that with $43,200, we need just over $1 million in order to make that work, about $1,080,000.
Yeah, and I think what's important here is that, as a part of our normal analysis, we like to start at the end.
Right.
And we like to say, what happens when all the faucets are actually turned on? So we know that in their particular case, they're going to need $1 million, throwing off 4%, $40,000 a year. That'll make their life work.
Right.
But we also have to deal with the front end, right, Rob?
Absolutely. So for the first 3 years, we're going to have to make up their $8,400 a month, over the whole year, which comes to $108,000. And we have to do that for 3 straight years. So that's $324,000 because neither one of them are receiving Social Security at that point. So we have to siphon off $324,000 for the first 3 years. For the second 3 years, we're going to turn Joe's Social Security on. So that's going to bring the deficit down to $19,000 a year, but we have to scale that up for over 3 years, so that's $57,600. So that leaves us with a total deficit for the staggered approach until all faucets are turned on of roughly $381,000. So when we add the $381,000 to the, we'll call it $1.1 million that they need outside of that, we reach a number of $1.4 million, which is a lot, but thankfully they have 1.8.
Yeah, and it was, and again, this is definitely woohoo.
Yeah, this is great.
It is great for them. And, what's nice is that these folks have a lot of options. Option number one is they may look at this and go, okay, we understand that we have enough capital. We know we'll have the cash flow to be coming. But if we're not necessarily comfortable with waiting till normal retirement age, can we begin to do that? The answer is sure. That'll change the numbers a little bit, but under the new tax law, Judy cannot begin to access the spousal benefit until our friend Joe is actually taking his Social Security benefit.
And the other important thing to keep in mind, really about all Social Security benefits, regardless of if you're electing your own, you're taking a spousal benefit, you're electing a survivor benefit, everything is keyed to the age of the person making the election. So in this particular case, I like to say this is the most extreme example because we're waiting until Joe reaches normal retirement age, and we're also waiting the full 6 years until Judy reaches normal retirement age, which means they haven't maximized their benefits in the sense that they waited till 70, but they have maximized their normal retirement age benefits, and Judy has essentially maximized her spousal benefit because she will be normal retirement age when she takes the spousal, giving her access to the full 50%. If Joe elects at 67 years old to take his Social Security benefit, Judy would be able at that point, so in 2024, just a few years, well, really, I guess we went back in time because 2022 to 2024. So really 2025 when Joe takes his Social Security benefit,
right.
Judy would be able to elect, but she's not going to be able to elect the full 50%. Joe's benefit gets cut in half initially, which would be the spousal benefit. But then because Judy is 3 years from her normal retirement age, that means that her benefit is going to be reduced by another 24%. So she's really only going to get 25% of Joe's benefit if she takes that early. So waiting gives her the opportunity to increase her portion of the spousal benefit.
And, we know from our experience that people don't always make, I don't want to say the best decisions, but the fact is they make the decisions that are comfortable for them at the moment.
Sure.
You know, we're looking at funding $8,400 a month, $108,000 a year, and we're going to be pulling that from their capital,
Which is
from a variety of whatever their sources it is, whether it's their savings, their Roth, their new IRAs, which they would have because they've rolled their money over. We're certainly going to try to do this in a tax-effective way because we know if they have no income, we can really build in theory, the first $90,000 that we're pulling, we could pull from their IRAs, and that would only be taxed at 10%, not at 20%.
right.
And we could certainly do Roth, pull from their Roth, or we could pull from their savings. So we have lots of different ways of mitigating the taxes, which is good, getting them to cash flow. But for them, it's really a function of where's the comfort level at. You know, we also haven't taken into account here, what if a year from now Joe says, you know what, I still have tread on my tires. I'm going to go back to work, or I'm going to do some consult. Or Judy says, you know what, I'm sick of waking up to him in the morning. I think I'm going to get out of here and go to work. So there's a lot of options that are there. And folks, having the knowledge, at least I think with them, where we know that if we wait all the way until your normal retirement age, then take your Social Security benefits, they're still going to be in a position where they can make their life work and have more capital than they need.
And Joe and Judy are really in a great spot because even when they have an elevated withdrawal rate for those first 7 years, we're looking at, you know, how much did we, $84,000 a year? Is that right?
Yes, for the first 3 years, that's correct. And then it's going to go down to $57,000, or it's going to go down after that, down to $19,000.
Well, I mean, we're still so it's $8,400 a month is about $100,000 a year. We're still talking about right in about a 10% rate of withdrawal for those first couple of years. So we've significant. More like 8. We've kind of we've really doubled their withdrawal rate for a few years, but we know not only is that for a protracted amount of time, but even if we were to, as Rob said, set aside that $381,000 in cash and literally send it to them every single month for the next 6 or 7 years, when we get to that point, they're still going to be able to they'll still have enough capital to maintain their lifestyle.
Well, also, and as we're talking about here, we use that number. The $43,000 that they have to pull, that's actually the deficit that's there after they've got
their ongoing deficit.
Right. If they have $2 million of assets, of retirement and Roth pre-tax assets, that's 2%. So they're well inside the safety zone.
So we started higher, but then when we got to the end of the day, when all the faucets were on, we're below the rate of withdrawal that they need, that we would consider to be prudent for an extended period of time.
And if in any of those beginning years, if Joe decides to go back to work, or Judy, that number becomes smaller. So they certainly have many ways to get to the same place.
That's a great point. The other great thing is that we're talking about all of these options. Social Security is one of those options that you don't have to make elections months or years in advance, and also they aren't set in stone. So the great thing is, with pension elections, you make the election, and it could be a month or even 90 days before you get your first pension check. With Social Security, most likely you're going to get your benefit up 2 months, at the most 3 months from when you elect, sometimes even the very next month. So you're able to make decisions as your comfort level changes or as your circumstance changes.
It's all fun. And so, the cool part was for them, just as everyone else that visits with us, we do have a 6x8 foot electronic whiteboard.
Mm-hmm.
And we played This Is Your Life, This Is Your Numbers. We ran through the various scenarios of when you would take Social Security. What if Judy decides she wanted to continue to work for a year or two, et cetera, to cover that health care until Joe became Medicare eligible?
Mm-hmm.
So many different options here, but the cool part is that we knew at the end of the day, in the most extreme scenario, which basically is we keep the faucets closed until we hit normal retirement age, and then we open them up. They aren't going to just be okay; they're going to be great.
Right.
And they certainly have excess capital where if things come up, they'll be able to deal with them and still keep the boat afloat as it would be.
Right.
which is a lot of fun. So again, that was certainly a fun coaching session that we had with them. And really, I don't want to say they're the same, but they're the same. Folks. The folks come to visit with us, and their eyes are wide open. Hopefully, not sleeping, right? Their eyes are wide open. They're a little bit nervous, and they're thinking, am I a rock star? Can I make this happen? Have I made good decisions over periods of time? Will I continue to make good decisions? And maybe that's why they come in. They want to check confirmation about how much. Not only am I ready, because I think I am. Can I make this happen? And frankly, I think I need somebody to guide me through a lot of these decisions. There's so many interlocking decisions here, especially tax decisions.
Sure.
And taxing decisions, right? Which we're going to talk a little bit about more this morning. But we'd love to hear from you. Our phone lines are open, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. Baby, it's 26 after the hour when we take our first break.
Let's do it.
Don't touch that dial.
Are you tired of high prices, high pressure, and high anxiety looking for siding, windows, doors, and decking? Silly ads claiming to give you 2 free windows, 50% off labor, or no interest payments? My grandson Elijah says,
"Are you kidding me?"
Let's talk about exterior building products that are durable, attractive, and energy efficient that increase your home's value and saves your hard-earned money. My name is Julius Korsanik. I'm celebrating 50 years in this industry. Our local and family business is Wholesale Siding Depot. Please visit our website at wsdepot.com. That's wsdepot.com. For name brand windows from Anderson and Viwinco, Certainty Vinyl Siding, Provia and Masonite doors, AZAC, Envision, Fortress, and Trex decking, to name a few. We also offer a free contractor referral service to take care of your installation and labor needs. Keep it local and professional. Please visit wsdepot.com. That's wsdepot.com.
Hi, it's David Sherwood of the Inside Out Show and president of Sherwood's Forest on Barrett Station Road, just south of Manchester. Spring planting season is here now. We are fully stocked with the area's largest selection of evergreens, Japanese maples, and shade trees. Choose from black gums, white oaks, birch, October glory maple, hornbeams, and crabs to provide summertime shade and great fall color. At Sherwood's Forest, you'll also find hundreds of green giant arborvitaes and junipers to screen thy neighbor. Sherwood's has a wide selection of large-size annuals, including our homegrown geraniums. Sherwood's Forest has 3 landscape designers on staff to create the perfect garden oasis at your home. Now is the time to plant some smiles. So head to the forest, Sherwood's Forest at 2651 Barrett Station Road, or check out our inventory at sherwoods-forest.com.
Home and garden showface, making beautiful gardens come alive.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Hey, KTRS listeners, Roger Wigginton here at Don Rogers Limited, 6727 West Main in Belleville. Well, Father's Day is right around the corner. And for those of you that don't know, we have a great men's department. You know, we've been in men's and women's apparel business 47 years. Our men's department's great. Fabulous selection of casual sportswear, moisture wicking sports shirts, woven sports shirts, Charlie Sheen sports shirts, untucked styles, great selection of Grand River jeans, the best fitting jean in the world, suits, sport coats, shirts, ties, accessories. We've got it all. Don't forget, we gift wrap it for free. And as always, you're going to park at the door, walk in, and you're going to get waited on. So don't forget, we're open at Don Rogers Limited, Tuesday through Saturday, 9:30 to 4. Park at the door, walk in, get waited on. We'll gift wrap it for free. We'd love to see you. But don't forget, Uncle Joe, Grandpa, Dad, Father's Day is right around the corner. We'd love to see you. So stop by if you have a chance.
Come on, start already. Come on, you Frizzy Frappuccino.
Is it time to change with your lawn equipment? Hi, this is Frank Blair from Schnarr's Hardware. The next time you're ready to do lawn work, have the next best thing to a professional lawn crew waiting for you. Reach for the tools they rely on. Echo Outdoor Power Equipment. For power and durability, season after season, Echo Power Tools have been the choice of professionals for years. Every engine carries the highest performance rating available, and every product is backed by the industry's only 5-year consumer warranty. And in the unlikely event your Echo sounds like the beginning of this commercial, bring it to us. We're a servicing dealer. So come to Schnarr's Hardware and let us help you put an Echo in your garage. We're open 7 days a week, so call us at 314-993-0910 in Ladue or 314-961-4522 in Webster Groves. For address, hours, or to shop online, go to schnarrs.com. It's easy when you start at Schnarr's.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back with some more Straight Talk and Retirement here on the Big 550 KTRS Talk Radio St. Louis. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from text line.
And speaking of the text line, it's beginning to heat up, and our first texter of the day writes, why does the government let widowers take Social Security at 60, and do all the same rules, income limits, etc., apply as if it were the normal 62 or 65 age?
I do not know why they allow widowers to elect the benefit at 60. I assume just because the government thought it would make sense that they'd be able to elect sooner rather than later off of a deceased spouse's benefit. But yes, all of the same rules apply in terms of income limitations and also benefit reduction. It isn't. I do not believe that the benefit reduction is exactly 8% year over year for the survivor benefit. So you do want to log on to the irs.gov website because they have a calculator for you that you can input your information to determine what the reduction in your Social Security benefit would be, or you could just call up the Social Security office and make an appointment to investigate your benefits. But the one piece of the survivor benefit that is different from all of the other benefits is that if you elect the survivor benefit at any point, you still have the opportunity to elect your own benefit down the line. So if you are 60 and you elect the survivor benefit and you reach the age, you reach your normal retirement age, or you reach the age of 70 and you want to switch over to your benefit because it might be larger at that point, you have the opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, the government disallowed from deeming, which would be the ability to switch over benefits for every other type of living benefit, which would be spousal benefits.
Yeah, and again, I think the big deal here, and the thing that we've seen that's been the most difficult for folks, is that today we have most families are two-income families.
Right.
And being able to elect benefits before your normal retirement age subjects you to the Social Security take-back amounts.
Right.
And we know that today, prior to the year that you reach your normal retirement age, you can only earn about $21,000 and some dollars. They've raised that number.
Yeah, every year it is adjusted for inflation and
like
cost of living.
I think it was, I saw it the other day, I think it was $21,800. So somewhere in that area. Most of our clients aren't electing because they're still actively at work.
Right.
And there's just no benefit for them they elected, they have to give it all back.
Right, so, because the rule is for every $2 over that you earn over the limitation, which is about $21,000 this year, you have to return one of your Social Security dollars. So most people aren't going to see, like you said, Dad, a large benefit if you're still working and over the income limit electing your Social Security benefit before normal retirement age. Once you are your normal retirement age, then you can earn as much as you'd like and elect your benefit. There is no take back.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe to our texters, answer that question. At the time the Social Security system was initiated, there weren't as many two-income earning families.
Sure.
And generally, husbands are outlived by their spouses. And this was a way for the government to get benefits to that surviving spouse when she wasn't at work.
Which is the same logic behind the spousal benefit.
Yes. No question about that. So that was a good text. Again, our text line is open. We'd love to hear from you. 84126 on the text line or 314-931-5877. Our excellent producer, Eric Apelson, is here to answer your calls. So please call us. We'd love to hear from you.
That's right.
And speaking of phone calls, we had a rather unfortunate phone call come into the office from a longtime client of ours named Paul. And Paul was calling to inform us that his mom passed away in April. And she did so leaving an account with a brokerage firm of about $120,000. And the account was to be divided equally between Paul and his two siblings. And he had a couple of questions. First, he wanted to know if I have my share of the account transferred to my current after-tax TOD account. Are there any income tax consequences? Great question. And the current custodian wanted Paul to set up a TOD account with them. Was this a bad idea?
So I think let's answer the second question first, because that's the more technical one, which is when you are the beneficiary of any money. It could be after-tax money like Paul inherited. It could be IRA, which is pre-tax money. The custodian that was originally holding the funds, so the custodian or the brokerage firm that was holding Paul's mother's money, will automatically, because they are required to, set up an individual account. Paul happens to be a single client of ours. If he was married, they'd set up a joint account for him to accept the funds that mom gave to him. The reason for this is because if one, Paul would like to retain the relationship with the brokerage firm that mom was working with, he can do so. But secondly, if Paul's working with someone else, like he's working with us as his advisor, our firm cannot accept the inherited money until it's been retitled in Paul's name. So unfortunately, if Paul said, can you please request that the money I inherited be sent to my individual account with you, we would say not a problem, but we can't request it directly from mom's account. It has to be set up in a transfer on death account in Paul's name. So this is a standard practice across all firms. Now, sometimes, like for example, and we'll get into what should Paul do with his inheritance, if he's just going to take it in cash or you've inherited cash and they want to write you a check, that might be a different situation where they'll just distribute the funds in that way. But in most cases, it's not a selling technique or an attempt to capture your business for longer. It's simply a way to make it easier to transition funds for you. And eventually you do need it in your name because you will either pay taxes or have to account for that in some way.
So in Paul's case, mechanically, no matter what option he pursues, he has to get that money out of his mother's account and into an account with his name on it, no matter what.
Exactly.
And what's important about that also is that it makes it real easy to transfer.
Right.
Because, as we mentioned to Paul, we're going to wait for 30 days, wait for you to get an actual statement that shows your name on the account.
Right.
And then with the number of shares that were transferred in, et cetera. So from a tax point of view, if all of this money was after-tax money, then he and his siblings would receive a step-up in basis, which is the fair market value of the securities at the date of mom's death would be the new basis, and any gain would be bye-bye, it's gone.
And that's another really important piece, because when those funds are transferred from mom's account into his own account, that is when the step-up happens. So when he transfers them elsewhere or makes sales, the step-up's already occurred, so the broker-dealer will record it as such, meaning, if there's any gains or losses from the date of mom's death, that's what will be recorded versus what mom originally purchased the shares for. So if Paul decides to transfer those funds and they go into an after-tax account in his name that already has other securities, it will all then match appropriately, meaning his cost basis is reflected throughout.
a very nice provision in the tax code, that step up in basis. I hope they never do away with it.
Well, that and that's something that they talk about all the time.
Quite yes.
Exactly, and it really, again, we think about it in terms of securities, but it really also would apply again possibly to farmland, to closely held business interests, and that could be disastrous from an estate planning point of view. What's kind of fun about Paul's situation here is that, you know, when he originally called us, it was like, hey, I'm going to get this much money.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asking him, well, does Mom have an IRA? Is any of these assets pre-tax versus after-tax? Because we know the tax laws changed. Well, I get a second call back. And he said, yes, Jeff, by the way, 20,000 of the 120,000 is IRA money.
Mm.
And the other is not. So what's the difference there? Well, we know that with IRAs, those have to become what we call inherited IRAs. So Paul's name and his mom's name would both be on the account. We definitely want his current custodian that's holding the money to set up that new account.
In fact, they gotta.
Exactly. They're actually required to, just like if his mom's account was with us, we would have to do that as well. And then they'll permit you to transfer without any fees. So that was kind of a nice thing. We knew that eventually we were going to get the money.
And our broker-dealer, and I don't know if it's standard practice throughout, if you're setting up, if you are the beneficiary of an IRA account or a portion of an IRA account, most broker-dealers do not begin charging you an account opening fee for the first 90 days. So if your intention is not to keep the money where where it is being held currently, it's not going to quote unquote cost you to have them do that transition for you so you can then move the funds. You just want to do it on a timely basis, and waiting at least until a statement can be generated is really smart, because all firms that are going to transfer money need a copy of the statement, because they have to match up what funds were in the account that is being requested to be transferred. Did they all make it over? Do they have to request again? It's all mechanical. It can appear salesy, but really it's all to your benefit.
Absolutely, and that's very important. I mean, making the paperwork easy certainly will expedite the process, and that's really good for you. But our next question really was, and we gave him the tax backup information. And one thing I did forget to mention here, which I know Aaron was going to mention anyways, is that since Mom was taking required minimum distributions, Paul was going to have to take required minimum distributions from his mom's inherited IRA account, and obviously empty it within 10 years. So that's
you said that there was about 10,000 of the 100. So split amongst three, about $3,000 of.
It would be killed pretty fast,
right?
If they want to do that. So, my next question to him, or series of questions, was, and I think these were really the big ones, which was, do you intend to use this money for any purpose in near term, next 3 to 6 months? If the answer is yes, then you should request that the custodian liquidate your portion of the account and send you a check. And this is for the non-retirement side of the formula here. There's no reason to open an account with cash, and especially with us, and then transfer it and then close it. Just have them send you the check. Make life easy. Just have them send you the check, etc. If the answer was no, well, then what happens is we can certainly we'll have a transfer form. You'll have a copy of the statement.
Mm-hmm.
We send it into the custodian. They switch the assets over. And what's again Aaron was talking about was, if there are individual securities in there, whether they're stocks or mutual funds, unit investment trusts, whatever would they be, they will have stepped up to the fair market value on the date of Mom's death. And then what happens is that cost basis data is required to be sent to us, i.e. the new custodian, and recorded, so that when a 1099 eventually is created at the sale, etc.,
it reflects the proper cost basis.
You definitely don't want to have that messed up.
Right, and
and we've seen this before, and the problem is that you've got to put the other custodian's feet to the fire to say, hey, report this information. Unfortunately, the IRS didn't require you to carry this data over until about 5 or 6 years ago. And prior to that, and that's one reason. And we had this discussion. I had a discussion with a client the other day about purchasing stock for grandchildren as a gift. You know, and what he was doing was he was purchasing the stock and then immediately gifting it to them, so their basis became his basis. And I suggested him, said, look, you know, they're young. Is this money they're going to use for college? He goes, probably no. Okay, this is just long-term investment, giving them a bit, you know, a foundation situation. So I said to him, you know, if they're little and you really want them not to touch this money or their parents, first, let's say 10 to 15-year period, which in theory could be your mortality. He's in his mid-70s. You know, hopefully he makes it to age 100, but if he doesn't, don't give it away. Keep the stock in your name, or we can create a TOD account which would transfer it to them at your death, and they would get the step-up in basis. So all the appreciation
gets wiped away.
You're going to pay the taxes on the dividends or capital gains if we're using mutual funds, which we were in this particular case to do that. But don't gift it to them now. Hold on to it and wait.
Right.
And that's a good idea. And then we also know on the other side of that, many of our clients, they've moved from a fund company to a brokerage firm and maybe to another brokerage firm, etc., prior to the time that the IRS required them to keep, to know what the cost basis of these securities were. So they've got stuff that's in there that they have no idea what the basis is, and they can't sell it because they would have to assume one and tell the IRS, and the IRS obviously would hopefully believe it.
They either have to prove it through past statements, or the cost basis becomes zero.
Yeah, I mean, it's dead weight.
Those are right. Oh my God. So, but there are a lot of ways, that seems like a really horrible outcome. However, there are a lot of ways, because we have quite a few clients that are in this situation. Quite a few people are in this situation because, just like you said, Dad, you're moving from one brokerage firm to another, and before they were required to send the cost basis information, then once you've lost a piece of it, and this is true for most broker dealers, if you even are missing one dividend reinvestment, they can't show any cost basis recorded at all. So it becomes, they stop recording it for you. So what we often recommend is you're paying dividends and interest, especially if it's mutual funds or capital gains on these securities.
You're paying taxes on it.
You're paying taxes on those securities if you take the money in cash or not. So what we often recommend is if you are holding securities inside of your portfolio that you cannot record the cost basis of, instead of reinvesting those dividends or the interest, have it go to cash. So that way you're not adding fuel to the fire, so to speak. You're not increasing your position in a fund or a security that you don't know the cost basis of. That way, one, you might be able to diversify further because you're creating more cash inside of your account. Or the other alternative might be that if you are a charitable individual, that you start gifting shares of these securities that you're unsure of the cost basis. Charities, churches, even public educational institutions don't pay taxes when they receive charitable gifts. So when you gift the stock or the mutual fund, whatever security it might be, you get to take the deduction of the fair market value of the security the day that you gift it. You don't have to worry about the cost basis. When the charity sells that security, they don't pay taxes, so they get the maximum gift as well. Many organizations, in fact, I would say almost all of them, have a way in which you can gift securities. You just have to give them a quick call and say, could I have the form that explains how I gift securities? You pass that to your advisor. They'll know how to set up the distribution to your charity using that form. You just have to sign off on it. And instead of gifting cash every year, you might say, I'm going to gift X number of shares that equal the cash you would have given.
No question. And that's certainly, in some cases, a short-term, intermediate-term, etc., alternative to holding on to that security, which becomes, in my mind, dead weight in your portfolio until your death, and then having it go.
And then it gets the step up in basis,
etc. So there are things that you can do, but as you can imagine, your flexibility is definitely restricted in some ways by doing that.
You know what? I think we should take our second break of the hour, and when we get back, we have 2 really great text questions to get to.
Very good. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
It's time to make a summertime splash with Dogtown Pizza. Hi, Josh here, and what better way to feed that hungry pool party than with a couple of Dogtown pizzas? And with 11 different varieties, there's something for every swimmer this summer. Who wants hamburgers from the grill when you can have it on your pizza? And fresh from the garden, it's tomato, basil, garlic. Just remember to wait 45 minutes before diving back in. Make a splash this summer with Dogtown Pizza.
While you enjoy this Memorial Day weekend, Schrader Funeral Home and Crematory reminds you to remember the true meaning of Memorial Day. Schrader Funeral Home and Crematory is proud to honor and remember all the service members that lost their lives defending this great country.
All gave some, but some brave men and women in the U.S. military gave all. St. Paul GM Country reminds you that while you are enjoying this 3-day weekend, please honor and remember their service. It's a small price to pay for those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Happy Memorial Day from St. Paul GM Country.
Okay, let's talk about St. Louis weather for a minute. Had some freezing weather, had some high winds, had some incredible heat, and you know what? Last week was rough too. Well, just imagine what all of this is doing to the outside of your home, whether it's the roofing or some siding blew off. Lucky for you, I know who can fix it. It's Allen Roofing. They've been doing folks' homework for quite some time, and they can do yours too. Look, it's one of your biggest investments you're ever going to make. Take care of it and do it with someone trusted by thousands and thousands of your friends and neighbors. It's Allen Roofing, siding, tuck pointing. It's too much to put in one name. Let's just call it Allen Roofing. Find them online, aroofing.net.
Are you a former smoker? The lawyers at Team Malone are bringing cases against Big Tobacco to hold them accountable for their wrongdoings. If you or a loved one have recently been diagnosed with a smoking-related illness, such as bladder cancer, throat cancer, lung cancer, or COPD, please call 1-888-SMOKE-18 to learn more. That's 1-888-SMOKE-18. There's no cost to speak with us.
What type of experience do you expect when choosing a real estate agent?
That's Devin, another extremely satisfied seller of Lauren Risley Realty.
When I first met with Lauren and her team, I wasn't really sure what the value of my home was. I brought a number to the table that was given to me by another realtor who had evaluated my house. I was surprised to find out that I initially undervalued my home and was very interested to learn how Lauren would get the price that she promised. She sat me down and went through the current crazy market conditions and put together a strategy to get me top dollar. Even after putting this plan into motion, she got me almost $50,000 over my asking for the house, with a ton of offers to choose from.
You know, now really is a great time to buy or sell your home with Lauren Risley Realty. Call 314-775-0684. That's 314-775-0684. Or email at hello@laurenrisleyrealty.com.
I would absolutely recommend Lauren Risley Realty to anyone, and I already have.
Lauren Risley Realty.
The best hot dog in town, hands down, no questions asked, is Dirty Dogs Hot Dogs in O'Fallon, Missouri. Jason Gaines, the owner of Dirty Dogs, and his Marine wife, Kay, wish everyone a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend. The Dirty Dogs family is proud to honor and remember all the servicemen and women who lost their lives defending our great nation. When you want the best dogs in town, get a Dirty Dogs Hot Dog. 3720 Monticello Plaza in O'Fallon, Missouri. DirtyDogsHotDogs.com.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back here on the Big 550 KTRS. It's 9:54:19 if you're setting your clocks. Well, actually past that, so sorry about that. We're having some fun. We hope you are this morning as well. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 and 84126 from the We Got Some People to Talk to text line.
Absolutely. And our next texter writes, I will turn 65 in February. My employer has more than 20 employees, and I am enrolled in the company's insurance plan. How long should I keep working in order to get all the benefits possible? Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your question. I think if I'm interpreting the question correctly, my thought would be if you wait till 65, and so next February, you're Medicare eligible, so you have maximized your opportunity to take advantage of group health insurance benefits. If you continue to work past 65, you'll still be able to maintain those group health insurance benefits because you work for an employer that has more than 20 employees. So you can still take advantage of the pre-tax nature of your premiums and also hopefully still maintain a decent plan because you are part of a group. The second thing that I would think you might be referring to is Social Security benefits. So if you want to wait until you are 67 years old, because at 60, almost 65, I'm assuming Social Security normal retirement age is right about 67 years old, maybe a couple of months, then you will have maximized your Social Security benefits as well. So if you're looking to maximize both, I would say 67. If you're looking to simply maximize your Medicare benefits, you're almost there till February, and you got it.
Honey, correct me here, but I believe that the year that you turn 67, your normal retirement age, you can earn, it's like $54,000 or something. I mean, there's a pretty large
significant. It's much more significant.
So depending on your income, you may be able to do a little earlier. The big deal here is the take back. That's really what we're concerned about, which is not electing your Social Security benefit, and at the same time you're working and you're having to give it back.
Right. And the other nice thing is, so the income limitation increases the year that you turn your normal retirement age, but the take-back calculation also is manipulated as well. So basically what happens is that I think like you said, Dad, I think the earnings limit is around $50,000, but what happens is when the year you turn your normal retirement age, there's only a $1 take-back for every 3 that you earn over the income limit. So it adjusts in 2 ways for you.
Well, you're so bright. That's why we called you daughter.
Oh, kindness. We have a
Jeff specific text question.
That's right, directed to you.
And our texter writes, good morning. I have a question for Jeff. If we are both at the age of Social Security, and if you were in the market for a new car, assuming you had the money in the bank. Yes, he has the money in the bank. And everything else.
Well, they have the money in the bank, not me. Because I would never buy a car.
Oh.
Would you pay cash, or would you finance the car?
Well, I would probably, first question I would ask this person is, are they going to drive more than 15,000 miles a year? Because if the answer is yes, then purchasing a car might make sense for them. If the answer is no, then leasing would be. And if they were looking at leasing, which is something I always recommend them to consider, is they might consider what's called a one-pay lease.
Because that reduces the interest payment, right?
Yes, and you get a little discount, and so what happens is you basically have a 3-year lease that you turn into a one-pay lease, and then you don't get payments for 3 years, and at the end of 3 years, you look at them and say, I've got a guaranteed purchase price. I can either buy that vehicle.
And you know what the purchase price is when you sign the lease.
Yes, or I can toss it. I would just tell you that from my experience in leasing cars over the last 35 years, is that the auto manufacturers tend to overestimate the value of their cars after a 3-year period with the mileage that you're using.
Okay.
And therefore, what happens is that the guaranteed purchase price that you have is generally higher than what the current market value is. So what happens is it's called flipping the keys and get another car. If you have a hybrid, that's a little different. If there's a nuclear power plant that almost blows up, that's a little bit different. If there's parts storage, it's a little bit different. But generally the answer is it's not. And the Japanese auto manufacturers tend to do a better job in having lower residual values I'm sorry, higher residual values means that you're basically same deal, same car, pay less money. But let's talk about that in the next hour, shall we?
Don't touch that dial.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to Straight Talk on Retirement, hour number 2 this Saturday morning. It's Memorial Day weekend, right?
This isn't Labor Day, comes later. So, yeah, Memorial Day. I always get the two confused.
So do I. This is the unofficial beginning of summer. I guess the other is the unofficial end.
Oh, well, you're deep. I always felt deep into summer when 4th of July weekend, like now you're like
heart of summer.
Right, you're beating heart. So, yeah, unofficially summer begins right now.
Well, let's go with our next text question.
And our next texter writes, do you have to pay sales taxes and personal property taxes when you lease?
Yes.
You do.
But the great thing is they build that into the price of the lease, and so then you get to take a personal property tax waiver or send it in when you're, getting your sticker and paying you don't actually pay it twice. The dealership pays it for you because technically the finance company owns the car.
So as you're making each lease payment, they're segregating out your property tax. Oh, that's good.
They prepay it. I don't know exactly how it works, but they factor it into the price of the lease.
It's on their end. Oh,
right.
That's nice to know. Well, government is still getting their VIG, so everyone's happy.
They always get theirs.
When don't they?
Right.
If they don't have it, just print it. Wish I had one of those printers.
And then you raise the debt ceiling. Problem solved. Here we are this morning, solving all the problems. But
let's talk about Tim.
Right. Let's talk about Tim with Smart Choices about your health care, sponsored this week and every single week by Coventry and Aetna and Anthem of Missouri.
It doesn't sound like he has too many problems.
No, Tim is great. Tim came in this past week to chat about his Medicare options. He's going to be turning 65 in August this year. He's been all over the country. He's been all over the world. He and his spouse enjoy going on cruises. They like to play pickleball.
Pickleball is serious business. I mean, every time I see that game going on, they're diving. They're going all out. They're not playing games.
I've heard of one
injuries, like
serious pickleball injury. One of our dear clients broke their femur playing pickleball.
Isn't that the strongest bone in the body?
Well, she's quite competitive.
Wow.
The femur, and then clients having orthopedic issues. It's a serious game, guys. Be careful out there.
It looks fun. Every time I peer in, it looks like, I'm not quite at the age to be playing it yet.
What?
But no, I still feel like...
you're 45. You're kind of old.
I feel like I can still play some basketball and some tennis, but it's nice to know that the pickleball leagues are waiting, saying,
right.
Come in, brother.
Well, Tim also, in addition to pickleball, likes to hike and whitewater raft, like all kinds of things.
Oh, you love to see it.
Right. So he's super healthy, and he lives a really active lifestyle, but he's not necessarily free of the need of health care. He's had some injuries, broke his wrist, headaches, issues like that. So, he's not the picture of health because his enjoyment time sometimes leads him to the need of some health care.
Oh, when you're that active, aches and pains are part of the equation.
I'm glad you didn't say old.
Well, Tim came in to see...
Grown up.
Right. Tim came in to see Frank this past week since he's turning 65 in August, and he heard that he should stay away from those Medicare Advantage plans because, one, it's going to limit the doctors that he can see because he likes to travel, and Medicare Advantage plans are only going to give him access to St. Louis doctors. And secondly, if he breaks his wrist, it's going to be really expensive again. So that's what he's heard.
Is that really true, though?
It's a great question.
It doesn't sound like it's
really true, though.
Well, I'm going to let you get into that, but it sounds like it could be some...
Well, in the past, it was true that if you were a traveler or someone that had multiple homes maybe, or you just like to be in multiple locations, that the traditional Medicare supplement would be a better option for you, because every physician that accepts Medicare will accept you. So your network essentially becomes Medicare. But with those as Medicare Advantage plans continued to improve over the last 10 years, they've truly improved. But most people don't know that Medicare Advantage plans actually existed all the way back during the Reagan administration. So that's over 40 years now that Medicare Advantage plans have been in existence. But as Medicare Advantage plans became more popular, more people started to join Medicare Advantage, more doctors started to join Medicare Advantage networks, the benefits started to improve over time. So just like anything else, as people started to utilize this more than the traditional Medicare, this has become incredibly competitive with a traditional Medicare supplement. So when we look at Medicare Advantage plans and we look at Tim's options, we know that he's not seeing the doctor on a really regular basis, but when he does, we won't call it catastrophic, but we will say that they are some serious events like broken bones, serious headache issues, things like that. What Tim can do is utilize Medicare Advantage while he's in St. Louis. For his regular checkups, he has a primary care physician. But the great thing about Medicare Advantage now is, especially if you elect a company that has a national network, so Aetna, United Healthcare, even Cigna in some cases, will allow you to see any physician that accepts their plan throughout the country. Not just in emergency and urgent care for emergency and urgent care situations, but let's say Tim was out in Montana again and he broke his wrist horseback riding, as he did several years ago. Well, he'd obviously go to the ER most likely initially. That would be covered in network for him using a Medicare Advantage plan. But if he needed to go see an orthopedist and he wanted to go right away, he would be able to utilize an in-network orthopedic surgeon or just an orthopedist in Montana using his Medicare Advantage plan, as long as that doctor accepted that network, which when we utilize those national plans, many doctors accept Aetna, Anthem, United across the country. So the really nice thing is that Medicare Advantage has expanded its options to give you access, even if you're someone that's not, staying in your home state the majority of the time. The other great thing is that Medicare Advantage, when you're out of the country, is going to give you ER access. So,
wow.
Right?
Even when you're out of the country.
You're not in the country, you can utilize your Medicare Advantage plan as in-network to use the ER. If you end up being admitted to the hospital through the ER, when you're out of the country, that will all be covered as in-network also. So these Medicare Advantage plans truly have improved over time. The other nice benefit is that Tim is going to get access to some of the extra benefits that he probably wants to utilize. Silver Sneakers or Renew Active, that free gym membership that you have access to under Medicare Advantage. If you're a traveler, I think you get the best possible maximization of this benefit. You can join as many gyms that accept Silver Sneakers or Renew Active, depending upon if you're on a United Healthcare policy or any other policy, being the Silver Sneakers original option.
So Tim could, in this example, he could join a gym here in St. Louis, and say, for argument's sake, he was out in Montana, he can join a gym out there as well, so he's always got gym access.
He can join a gym in Montana, and when he goes to California, he can join 3 out there,
and
when he's in Florida, he can join 1 there. Everywhere he goes, him and his spouse, if his spouse is, I don't know, Frank didn't mention for us if his spouse was Medicare eligible yet, but when she is too, they'll both be able to use almost any gym that accepts their Silver Sneakers, if they choose, Aetna, Anthem, Cigna, or if they choose Renew Active and go with the United Healthcare policy, they can join as many gyms as they want.
What a great, convenient benefit.
Right.
And it's portable. I mean, what more could you ask for? And even if you wanted to join multiple gyms here in St. Louis.
Even if, yes.
I mean, say you wanted to do your swimming at one and you're running at another, or, you just like the atmosphere at one better. I mean,
Right, maybe there's better pickleball courts at one than the other.
maybe one is 2 minutes from the house, and the other one's 10. I mean, unbelievable.
The world is your oyster.
Right.
You don't have to be limited by traditional Medicare policies if you are a person that a Medicare Advantage plan will fit well for, because you will have all of the excellent benefits of Medicare because they're required to be provided to you. You will have additional benefits that Medicare does not provide because the insurance companies are looking to entice you onto their policies. And you still have access to physicians both locally, wherever you happen to elect your Medicare Advantage plan, and across the country.
Well, honey, I think this is a little bit different and maybe a little better than conversations we've had in the past, because in this situation, Tim he's not really staying at places for long periods of time.
Right.
I know that you've discussed, and Frank has discussed, that if someone is leaving the network area, let's say they're going to Florida to see Mickey for 3 months because they want to get away from the St. Louis winter, they could actually move their network and establish new relationships, etc. Now, I think what I'm hearing you say is that isn't really even necessary anymore.
Exactly.
You don't have to move networks back and forth.
So that is a perfect example of the evolution of these Medicare Advantage plans. I usually like to use the dental coverage, and we'll go back to that, but this is about 5 years ago, Aetna and United Healthcare both introduced what United called the passport, which means you could move your network. Most of the time, this was effective when you were staying somewhere for a longer period of time and you wanted to build new relationships, just like you said, Dad. So maybe you had a condo or a house somewhere else and you didn't want to have to come back to St. Louis just to see a primary care doctor or see a cardiologist. You wanted to build a new book of physicians elsewhere. You would move your network, and then when you came back to St. Louis, you would move it back. You were eligible to move your network for 364 days a year. You had to be in your service area 1 day a year. Now, what the plans have done, which this is what it reminds me of like 15 years ago when you would have your Anthem Blue Cross card and it had a little picture of a suitcase with PPO inside of it. And I always thought that was like, because you can take it anywhere. Well, that's the same idea now, is you can take this anywhere. If you elect a plan that has a national network, they will then allow you to access the national network without having to call and change your service area like you did in the past. This is very similar to, almost 11 years ago now when I joined you and I started working with Medicare Advantage plans. Aetna, who was Coventry, was offering a $250 dental benefit, and you had to use their network, which was teeny tiny, and they'd be happy to admit that. There were like 20 dentists on it, and you got $250. Now, you get $2,000, $3,000 worth of dental, no network, see whoever you want. So even over the last 10 years, these benefits have improved and changed to the point where they're really trying to cater to you, because 250,000 people turn 65 every single month in this country, and every single one of these insurance companies wants you to choose their plan. So this isn't about being benevolent. It's really about marketing, and you should take advantage of what they're offering. So I think that's one of the benefits of working with someone like Frank, is he's going to be able to hone in on your specific needs. Tim is not the prototypical retiree. We have a couple that, Dad, you reminded me of a few of our clients that have divested of property and now travel the country in RVs, and they have even elected Medicare Advantage plans because, like you said, you don't have to keep moving your network, but as you move, it'll kind of go with you. Tim is similar to that group. But what Frank can do, if you give him a call, 314-863-0008, is really match your healthcare plan to your healthcare needs, and rarely were you ever able to do that before you got to Medicare eligibility.
I don't know why we have static this morning. It's kind of strange. But, again, to our listeners, we obviously want to thank you, because over the last several years, last 10 years, we've become one of the leading Medicare producing companies in the state of Missouri.
Yeah.
And we have helped thousands, literally thousands of our listeners, their friends, their family members, in getting hooked up with either traditional Medicare plans or Medicare Advantage plans, continuing to do that. loving to do that, doing it every week, over 300 people a year. And it's a great resource, not just for our clients, but also for our listeners, who, by the way, are basically clients that are going to happen maybe in the future.
Oh, these Medicare Advantage plans sounds great. I mean, they're convenient, they're portable. The insurance companies are continuing to evolve these plans to attract new people. I mean, we're definitely going to keep an eye on the benefits as they change and update our listeners accordingly. Sounds
That's
great,
right.
though. I mean, those gym memberships, just, my goodness.
Because we were talking about how this is the beginning of summer. Right as summer ends, open enrollment begins October 15th through December 7th. And, you know, we'll be able to start talking about what those new plans look like on October 1st, which I'm always really excited about.
And we get to see how much older Joe Willie Namath looks this year. Or all of those stars of the 70s that are now coming back and being Medicare advocates, or I guess you want to call it paid commercial people, William Shatner, those type of people as well.
Got lots of great people. United Healthcare always seems to pull the best athletes and such to promote their...
Yeah. So guess what? Don't worry about wrecking your TV time. Give us a call, 314-863-0008. Ask for Frank.
That's right.
Help. Or send us an email.
Franklin,
Frank,
L-I-N,
at jblfinancial.com. I'm sure Frank would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
And, you know, open enrollment being right around the corner, I mean, he's going to be a busy little beaver.
A busy, busy man. And if you're someone that's looking maybe to have a review of your plan for open enrollment, you can always give us a call in advance. We can get you on the schedule any day after October 1st, because we got to wait till those new plans are released before we can even talk about them.
Yeah,
I think Frank likes the high paced nature of open enrollment. Days go fast. We talk about it like, oh my God, I did 4 meetings in a row. It's like, it's going to be time to leave in a minute. Like,
in a minute.
Yeah. So definitely want to give Frank a call or an email.
Yes, and I think one of the other advantages is, and I know, honey, you and Frank do a good job on this, is that, you're doing a review for our existing clients, sending them an email saying, hey, this is how the plans have changed this year. What are recommendations to you based upon changes you have?
Right.
Especially if you've had, I think the big deal is medication changes.
Medication changes are big. I would say that we have clients that have had changes throughout the years of medications, of health care needs or wants potentially. But the other big thing is that the plans change. So, what was the best plan for you last year maybe is not the greatest plan for you this year. It doesn't mean that you're going to be hurting yourself, but we could just make it potentially better for you, which means maybe we could pay a little bit less for prescriptions, a little bit less for things that you do on a regular basis, and that's part of what having a conversation that's specifically based on you and your needs really helps you save in the long run.
I definitely want to come down to our offices in Olivet. Frank will make you a delicious cup of coffee. We have the best treats that you're going to find in all of St. Louis.
The best treats.
And most importantly, we're going to make sure that we address your health care needs in a way that works for you and that gets you the coverage that you need and desire.
Right.
It's all good.
That's right. I think, you know what? We should probably take our first break of this hour.
And when we come back, we'll be taking more of your calls at 314-931-5877 and texts at 84126. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
And I'm Robert Markham, your life insurance and fixed annuity specialist. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
If you're turning 65 this year, you face one of the most critical choices for your retirement game plan, enrolling in Medicare Part B and choosing your Medicare supplement. I will help you safely navigate this process and find the health insurance plan that best works with your new Medicare coverage. Getting started is easy. Call me at 314-863-0008, 314-863-0008 to arrange for a free health insurance coaching session, or email me at aaron@jblfinancial.com.
Here's James Anderson, president of Approved Home Improvements.
A lot of people notice their chimney after damage has already occurred. With the preservation package, you can ensure years of use without any costly repairs. That one story is normally $550 and a two-story is normally $750.
Get your preservation package now by calling 314-780-6080.
Don't hope you're safe. Know you're safe. Call Approved for all your chimney and tuck pointing needs.
314-780-6080.
Now is when Coventry turns confusion into clarity. Coventry Healthcare has got a simple approach to care. By listening to their members, Coventry can make plans that work harder for you and your budget. The result? They offer great service and clear costs. If you're looking for a plan that's more about you, give them a call at 1-855-338-9551, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's 1-855-338-9551. Now is the time to call Coventry Healthcare.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
1025 here on the Big 550 KTRS. We're in the second hour of power on Straight Talk on Retirement. Here to answer your questions in your text, 314-931-5877 and 84126 from the text line. I know we do have some text messages that we'd like to address before we get into more fun.
And our texter writes, good morning. Are you aware of any local banks or credit unions paying high money market interest rates?
Yes.
You're aware of local ones?
Yes. There are many local banks that are currently paying a decent rate of interest.
Really?
Yes, they are. But you have to ask. They're not going to offer it to you.
Really?
Yes. Yes. There also are internet institutions that can link their accounts to yours, which make a lot of sense. And then obviously we've just recently done a lot of investigating in terms of money market accounts that we're including in our client portfolios that are paying in excess of 3%. So it's good.
Yeah, I don't know if truly local banks are doing that, though. Isn't that the problem?
No.
That's why they're going under.
I love you, but I disagree.
Okay.
But you have to do, I mean, frankly, most of the local banks are doing more of the
CDs, I know.
CDs and teasers. You know, you put in 5,000, the first 5,000 will give you 5%, and then after that, you get buckets. But you need to look around, and the savings and loans tend to do a little bit better of a job. So there are some people that are sponsors on our station, which we may not name, that we know have done a very good job traditionally over the years as credit unions in doing that. So the answer is yes, and I think it always makes sense to keep your vault, your safe money, your emergency funds here in a local bank so you can get a hold of it if you need to. Or credit union.
Absolutely. And our next texter writes, Joe and I are traveling from Wyoming. Does Medicare Advantage cover you after an emergency should you need continued care when you travel like we are in our Airstream? That sounds luxurious.
Yeah, it does sound nice. What does it look like? What's an Airstream? Is that the big...
It's like the old ones used to be like torpedoes.
But
this is not. This is
pull
typical.
It behind the car.
Yeah, this is a dragger. This is not a. It's not a cab integrated like a bus.
Those are scary to drive. Yes, Medicare Advantage would continue to cover you. I guess after an emergency depends on the situation, but let's say if you were admitted to the ER, if you were admitted to the hospital through the ER, your hospital stay is going to be covered. If you go to the ER and then you determine that you would like to see another physician after you've gone to the ER, you just want to make sure that that physician is in network, and then, yes, you would be covered there too.
Yeah, we have a client that just bought an Airstream. Beautiful, gorgeous, new. And also a pickup.
To haul it?
To drag it, exactly.
So, like, you park it and then you sleep in it?
Yes, honey.
I'm just asking. You know, when I asked what's a Joe boat or something, we almost lost a John boat. See, now we're definitely going to lose him. He's like, I don't know if I could have an advisor that doesn't know what a John boat is.
What is John boat?
John boats are, what is a John boat? Again, I forgot.
It's a small boat.
So why not just say a small...
Because it's called a John boat.
Right.
You know?
Of course.
And it's called nobody ever owns just one boat.
Right.
It's like a golf club.
Just
It's like
saying.
golfers typically don't have one set of golf clubs. They have many sets of golf
Some of us have lived in landlocked places for quite some time. If you are hospitalized, then you will be covered as an emergency.
and you won't be put in a John boat, so it's all good.
Oh, right, for like your Viking funeral where they push you out to sea.
Yeah, like in Thor, where Mom, they pushed the thing out. Set the flaming arrow, burned the thing to pieces.
Travel trailers. Okay, see, that's a texture is sent in. Airstreams are beautiful travel trailers, and I think that paints a much better picture for those of us that didn't know. But anyway.
Learning something new every day.
Absolutely.
Medicare Advantage for the win again.
Right, hospitalized, ER, anything you need.
Airstreams are silver houses on wheels.
314-931-5877 or 84126 from the RV dominated enthusiastic text line for today. Which is
I don't know. It'd be hard to see beautiful Wyoming without, driving it, I think.
okay.
That'd be the only way to go.
Right.
Why would you go?
It's supposed to be beautiful and low population. So
They call it Big Sky Country.
Right.
Okay. Well,
Big
when we
Sky
talk
National
about
Park
you know
is
what
there.
sky, the word sky rhymes with the word
pie.
That's
Oh.
And so why don't we talk a little bit about how do we split the pie? This is an interesting coaching session that I recently had with John and Joanne. They've been clients for us, with us for about 5 years. And previously, he had worked at one of the large airplane manufacturers here in town, who headquarters have moved to Seattle, and she was the secretary. Just as a little background about them, they currently have no mortgage, home equity loan, or significant credit card debt.
That's awesome.
Yet he's old enough now, a full grown-up, where he's taking requirement distributions each year of about $13,000. So his IRA is in the $450,000 area. Between their Social Security benefits and his pension, he and his wife have enough income to do all the things they'd like to do, deal with their current needs, deal with, et cetera, vacations, all that kind of fun stuff. They have 4 daughters. And those 4 daughters have a total of 9 children, so they have 9 grandchildren. Their non-retirement accounts are transfer on death, which means that, and joint transfer on death. So Joanne is the beneficiary, just like John would be if one of them passed away. And then those funds will then pass on to their 4 daughters without going through probate. That's why you do a transfer on death account as the contingent beneficiaries. As we do in each coaching session, we talked about, do you have enough, as my grandma would say, how's the money?
Right.
Do you have enough cash flow? How are things going? Tell me something I don't know.
Did they ever?
Mm-hmm.
They certainly did. And they laid this on me. Okay? And it was interesting. They said that 3 years ago, obviously I had never heard about it before this. They were contacted by a 5th daughter.
A 5th daughter?
A 5th daughter, right. One that had been born and put up for adoption many years earlier, prior to the marriage. So it was like, ooh, this is getting interesting. They've gotten to know her very well.
Mm-hmm.
John has embraced her as a daughter, which is kind of neat. And she, by the way, has 7 children of her own.
She has 7 children of her own.
Yes, she's been prolific, and so what's happened is that they now have 16
grandchildren.
And so, I don't even know if they all know all the names, but I wasn't hating on them too badly. Just so you know,
16.
They're like, Jeff,
that's
we don't
2
want to
basketball teams.
John and Joanna founded their nation.
That's actually
Right?
almost 4 basketball teams.
Oh my gosh!
5 people on a court at the same time.
I didn't realize that either.
There you go. So, they said, Jeff, what are we going to do? We would like to include our newest daughter as a member of the sibling group.
Okay.
We would like her to receive a share of the estate. But you know what? I don't know if we necessarily want to reduce the amount our other 4 daughters are receiving. And this isn't, this is not unusual. I mean, this case is a little bit different because it was really a surprise to me.
I
but
wonder
this
how
is
much
about,
of a surprise it was to John.
Oh, I'm sure, but I mean, this is a Brady. Maybe it wasn't any, but this is a Brady Buncher thing. You know, we
yeah.
have many mixed families, folks that are in second marriages, and are your kids my kids, your kids? Did they become that way, etc. And so, there's some things to think about. Number one is that they certainly could change the beneficiaries on everything, right? Add the daughter in. And so then what we've done is we've gone from a 25% interest per daughter to a 20% interest per daughter.
And you said that the estate was worth about $450,000.
Yeah. So in other words, we're going from basically 105 or 110,000 each daughter now to 90,000 to each daughter.
Okay.
Which may not seem like a lot of money, but to them it was. And
I'm not walking away from $90,000.
I'm just saying.
I'm
just making the point is that redoing the paperwork and retitling it takes time.
Sure.
It's certainly doable.
And then they would also need to do that in several places, depending upon, they have the IRA accounts that we're referring to now.
The TOD account.
The joint TOD account. Also,
beneficiary deed
on the house, because we mentioned that John and Joanne own a home.
Cars.
Right.
And one more person to come in and steal stuff when somebody's gone.
Sure.
When the second person's gone.
So, while that's very doable, I mean, there's some paperwork and time involved. What if, just throwing this out there, but what if we were to take a portion of John's RMD that he's not using, that they don't need to make their life work? We'll siphon off, say, $3,500 of it. And what if we use that to purchase a life insurance policy for $100,000 on Joanne's life and make the beneficiary her daughter?
Well, what I'm wondering here is why would we use Joanne instead of John?
Because female rates are usually a few years lower than male rates, and being a female who's a few years younger, she'll get that discount, and being a standard non-smoker rating will get a discount as well, so that we're trying to keep that premium as low as possible.
And I think from a timing point of view, it probably makes sense because we know that statistically wives outlive their husbands.
Sure.
So it would happen that way. But what would be kind of neat is that if we could leave their documents, we could leave all the rest of their paperwork untouched.
Right, and we wouldn't dilute anyone's inheritance because we're expanding the size of the state, which, in fairness, I love that idea. I always love that idea. Whenever people have money that they're not utilizing or consuming, I'm always like, well, why don't we just make it bigger?
Well, but I will tell you that the only reservation that they had, and it really wasn't a big one, on this was it was a, whoa, Nellie, 16 grandchildren to purchase Christmas presents for, as well as the other 5 daughters. Now we're talking about 21 people. So that RMD, was getting, it was funny, it was getting consumed because I was saying, I'm thinking to myself, well, we're not sending you money for income purposes. We are sending it to you because we had to do the required minimum, but they weren't recycling it.
Right, they weren't putting it back into an after-tax account with us, which a lot of times we're mechanically just moving forward with that for clients that are like John and Joanne that weren't using the money to consume for monthly expenses.
And how great is that? Like, I just have this faucet that I have to turn on, but I don't have a place to spend it right now, so just let it pool in this account over here until I figure out how to spend it.
Yes, and this was actually the second year that John was required to take them to distribution. I didn't really question them too much the first year about, well, what are you going to do with the money? Because with some of our clients, they do it for Christmas. They use it for Christmas present or a holiday present. They do use it to pay real estate taxes. Mm-hmm. They do use it maybe as a saving mechanism to replenish their bucket if they've made home improvements or things like that. So there are lots of reasons that folks consume the money, right, that they need, and they maybe have it on a continuing basis. But now we know. So I thought this was a very effective solution, and really the reason that we were even talking about using part of his requirement distribution to do this was because they didn't own life insurance. If they'd had some, well, what could have been the other option?
We could have just repurposed the life insurance and just changed the beneficiary.
Exactly. They didn't have to buy anything.
Right.
And as long as we weren't in a unholy triangle situation, which we can discuss in a moment, that would make sense. What I mean by that is, let's assume that John had a policy where Joanne was the owner of John's policy, which is unusual. Spouse owns the policy on the etc. We don't want to make the daughter the beneficiary. The reason that we don't is because instead of those proceeds then being income tax free, we have three different entities in the transaction there. What we would want to do first is to have Joanne transfer the ownership of the policy back to John, which is a non-taxable event because we know there's lifetime you can
spousal transfers.
Spousal gifts. Thank you, babe. Appreciate that. And then name her the beneficiary.
You can only have two entities involved in a life insurance contract, even though there are three positions. There's the beneficiary, there's the owner, and there's the insured.
That's correct.
They can't be three separate people, or you
violated it. It becomes a gift. Instead of the proceeds being tax-free, they become taxable as a gift.
That's why it's also, if you are someone like many people that are listening that already own life insurance policies or other types of financial instruments, it's definitely a good idea to double check with your financial professional what moves you'd like to make. Maybe you've heard us discuss changing beneficiaries and you think, hey, that's a great idea that I can do at no cost for our family. Want to double check because the insurance company is just going to process the paperwork for you. They're not going to ask or point out when you send the form in and say, hey, wait a second. There's three people on this contract now, not just the two that are necessary to maintain the tax-free death benefit. They're just going to process it per your request. So you always just want to have a quick double check before you're making changes to things because you don't want to be in a position where you're saying, I wish I knew that sooner.
Yes, and that also can kind of get back to who is the advisor you're working with.
Right.
Is it somebody that's licensed? Is it someone that has experience and understands what an incredible
tool
these contracts can be and how useful they can be to solve so many different issues? Whether it's creating an estate, creating an inheritance for estate equalization purposes,
expanding one,
dealing with debt issues, etc.
And so many people already own policies because you had a very specific purpose for purchasing them in the past and then decided, why let this go? I can completely understand that. But now maybe as opposed to something that you're just carrying with you, it's serving a very specific role in your financial future and your family's.
And naturally, what you already own,
always less expensive,
more valuable than what you would now buy new. It's just always that way. And you want to be careful. So, and it isn't unusual for us to be looking at term insurance policies, which are cost effective, that are unfortunately coming to the end of their guaranteed premium period. About do we convert it, do we keep a part of it, etc. Rob's always dealing with those issues, and that's important.
Many times a lot of our clients will gather things up through their working careers, either annuities or life insurance, and they're not quite for certain how all these things fit into their retirement plan, and that's where we just throw it all up on the whiteboard and see where it makes sense and where it fits and how we can repurpose some of this stuff so that it's useful to you. And in some cases, it can be for completely different reasons than the original reasons why you purchased it.
Yeah, and I would say for those folks that have been listeners for some time with us, which we certainly appreciate, one of the core philosophies that I have that I've tried to pass on to my daughter as well as other and really with clients is that there is no such thing as a good deal. There isn't. Okay, unless you're getting stock, unless you're buying stock that you love at a discount. Every asset needs to have a purpose and a function. And if you can functionalize each investment that you have, whether it's a CD or a money market account or a mutual fund or a life insurance contract, whatever it might be, annuity, whatever it would be, is to give that a function in your plan. It becomes more valuable to you. Yep. And it isn't a question of, is this better than that? Better, best is transient. Okay.
Right.
And it really depends, and obviously...
Also, it depends on who you're talking to, right?
Yeah, and it depends on who's selling it to you and I.
Right.
And I think our clients probably know that even the life insurance agent for over 40 years, I'm probably the most reluctant life insurance agent they're ever going to meet. Because what happens is that I really understand that if they don't fall into these boxes, you don't buy it. If they don't fall into these boxes, you certainly don't convert it. And you also, once you've owned something, I hate to use the word sacred, but it's pretty close. You don't want to replace it. I mean, you just don't want to. It just never makes sense to get rid of the old and buy new. It just doesn't.
Right.
No, I've seen probably a half a dozen times where a lot of these policies, and a lot of times the policy owner doesn't even realize that these policies are now self-sustaining.
Yes.
If you look at the dividends and the interest and you apply that to the premium, you can many times get yourself out of a premium payment on these policies. So, again, it's just important to have a professional come in and take a look at these policies before you decide that they're junk and and you don't need them, and why the hell did you buy them in the first place before you go through the endless recriminations. Just bring them in and let someone take a look at them.
Yes, and it certainly isn't unusual also for folks to tell us, and this is even clients, for whatever reason they wake up in the middle of the night, they have a wild hair, and they surrender the contract.
Right.
And then they've got, I owe taxes. Well, yeah, you held it for 20 years. Right. And then next week we come up with a need.
Sure.
A reason that it makes sense where these contracts might be able to fulfill that thing. And Rob, it's funny because you and I were working on something last week, a client of ours, not unusual, where they had policies on themselves and on their children. And we found that, they were old. They were over 15 years old. And the dividends had been used to accumulate interest, which is, truthfully, in my mind, it's like the dumbest way to do it.
Because you make them taxable that way.
Exactly. And so, because dividends are considered a return of premium.
Until you...
And then you're paying taxes on the interest that you're accruing, and when you're dead, they just hand you that money back. But
they don't hand it to you, though, usually.
This client is, and it's funny, these people are still paying premium. It's funny is the contracts were 15 years old. The premium was greater than the dividend each year was greater than the premium, so they didn't have to pay any money on them. They could keep the money going, and I was able to show them how they could pull from the dividend accumulation, no loans, over $30,000 from these contracts.
What?
Tax-free. Yeah, it's like, what? And then it's like, Jeff, what do I do with it? I was like, you know what? We're going to, markets aren't great right now. We'll just put it in a money market, earn the same rate of interest. You'll have control over it. And what will happen is we'll get reinvested. And, if you decide, I'm going to take that Alaska cruise. We've been thinking about it for a while. Or maybe we're going to go through the Panama Canal. Or maybe we're going to get that or maybe we're going to get that used Airstream that we've dreamed about, decaled out like in Marvel Comics.
Silver houses on wheels.
Or the new car.
But it's great. I mean, it was funny because they were really thinking about, do we have to still, and they're paying a couple $1,000 premiums.
Think about all of that you would have taken the insurance company off the hook for if you just surrendered it.
Right. I mean, it was probably about $200,000 in death benefits, but you don't do it. I mean, it was great that they brought it in, and they were happy as pie because they were getting money back. I mean, could you imagine getting $30,000 from an insurance company back and then never paying them any more premium? It was like, woohoo!
True rock star.
Right.
It was great. They even brought me some apples. I love that.
Ultimate power move.
It's even better. Apples are delicious.
Yeah, and healthy. They want to keep me around. I love that.
Don't we all?
Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
And I think it's time for our second break of the hour, so don't touch that dial. We will be back to conclude Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Now is when Coventry turns confusion into clarity. Coventry Healthcare has got a simple approach to care. By listening to their members, Coventry can make plans that work harder for you and your budget. The result? They offer great service and clear costs. If you're looking for a plan that's more about you, give them a call at 1-855-338-9551, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's 1-855-338-9551. Now is the time to call Coventry Healthcare.
Summer is almost here, and that means vacation time. Why not hit the road in a new or used RV from Bill Thomas Camper Sales in Winsville? Bill Thomas Camper Sales has been family owned and operated for over 55 years. They offer an extensive selection of new and used RVs, featuring an American icon, the Airstream. Bill Thomas Camper Sales in Winsville, 636-327-5900, or online at btcamper.com.
Now is when a small change can make a big difference. If you're not happy with your current Medicare coverage, take a look at Coventry Healthcare. They have a wide range of plans with great service and clear costs, including medical and drug coverage in one simple plan. Just call 1-855-338-9551, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. That's 1-855-338-9551. Now's the time to call Coventry Healthcare.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back for our last segment here on the Big 550 KTRS. It's 10:50. Got about 9 minutes left. Phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 and 84126 from the text line. We do have a couple of texts, so let's get to them.
Right away, and our next texter writes, any ideas on the easiest way to donate my entire estate, which is worth $2 million, to a single charity without any family involved? Cash, brokerage, real estate when I'm gone.
I love the no family involved part.
What did they do, sir?
Well, here's the nice part. When you're gone, there will be no family involved. Hopefully they'll show up to your funeral.
Oh, my God.
You better deal with prepaid funeral, that's what I would say. But the answer is yes. You can very easily make the beneficiary of your retirement accounts a charity. If you have a trust, you can name that charity as the beneficiary in your trust. If you don't have a trust, if you have a transfer on death account, transfer on death to the charity so that, guess what, it doesn't go through probate. And you can do the same thing with your cars or whatever else, but
well, now that I'm thinking
the
a little
tchotchkes,
bit,
though.
Well, now that I'm thinking a little bit more about the question, maybe the implication is that he doesn't want to have family distribute the assets to the charity, that it would just happen. I would say that you'd probably need a trust in that case, and then you would want to make the trustee a trust company, usually like banks. Many, for example, our broker-dealer has a separate firm that provides trust company services. So if you're working with an advisor, you might want to talk to them about what their custodian and broker-dealer have in terms of those type of services, because it'll take a portion of, they'll take a percentage of the estate in order to liquidate it for you, but because it's not going to be maintained, that would be a one-time fee to get that all cleared out, meaning selling the home, dispensing of the car, the real estate, everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that if you don't need all of these assets to maintain your lifestyle or those of your loved ones,
maybe you want to donate some now.
Yeah, do it, or you could even do a donor-advised fund, which is almost like a small charitable foundation without all the IRS, basically red tape involved. You can make contributions today, get your tax deductions, and then I do, sit in my underwear at my table and
make your donations.
Make
he
my
wants to
donation
get them all to one.
Great.
Well, also with the donor advised funds, there are some specialty donor advised funds that will actually hold real estate.
Cool.
And other
very neat
things. So you might look into a donor advised fund where all the money flows into that, and then they distribute it out for you, or just having a trust with a trust company as the trustee to dissolve your estate when you pass.
I would also suggest here that charitable institution
be notified in advance,
and they have staff, professionals that want to take your money.
Right, they want to, and
they will walk you through
you.
the steps they'll give you the tax ID numbers. They'll provide you with the legal names, etc. Lean on them a little bit, and when they find out that they're the beneficiaries, guess what? You'll be getting invited, if you're not already getting invited, to
lunches and
sure. I mean, enjoy and
open houses.
You may decide, as Aaron was suggesting here, that you want to do some of this gifting during your life.
You might be able to see some of it put to use while you're here.
Sounds like good, but neat idea.
Okie dokie. And moving on to our next text question. Our texter writes, I am just turning 62. When should I take Social Security, and will my Social Security be taxed? And is there a real benefit to waiting?
That was a serious question. I guess we truly don't have enough information to be able to speak definitively, but the texter must have been listening to our ongoing Social Security conversation from earlier in the show, which is that at 62, you're eligible for your Social Security benefit, but unfortunately, you may be subject to the Social Security take-back based on income limitations. So if you're currently working...
Earned income, which is wages.
Right. Thank you. You might consider waiting until you no longer have that earned income and use Social Security as a replacement there, or until you reach your normal retirement age, which would be about 67 years old, and then you have no limitations any longer, and you can take both. The advantage to waiting, aside from not knowing any personal information about this texter, is you are eligible for an 8% increase year over year of your benefit every year that you wait from 62 to 70 years old. So depending upon your working situation, you may want to allow that benefit to continue to accumulate over time as opposed to taking it right at 62 years old. And I think the final question was, is Social Security taxed?
Yes.
We can all thank the Clinton administration because, yes, indeed, your Social Security benefit is taxed based on half of your Social Security benefit plus all of your other income. Depending upon where you fall, you'll either be taxed 50 or 85% on your Social Security benefit. Very few people fall into the bracket in which Social Security is not taxed at all.
And one thing I would just add to that very good conversation, honey, that you had, is that in most cases, most people's last 3 to 5 years worth of their working lifetimes are typically their highest earning years. If this person isn't going to retire immediately, then it's possible that his benefits, even though it might not be significant, could still be increased or improved as those last 5 years of between 62 and 67 earning years could be knocking out some of the lowest earning years. And that could actually help improve the benefit, which, then getting the COLAs and all that stuff on top of it make it more cool.
And I would say that to add to that, there's often the question, if I am taking Social Security but I earn more than I have in the past, will that be factored into my Social Security benefit? And the answer is yes. So if you continue to work and you've already started collecting Social Security, if you happen to replace one of your top earning years, then you may see an incremental change in your Social Security benefit.
That's great. Robin, I know we've got about 1 minute and 20 seconds left. Do we have enough time for one more text?
I think we do. Our next texter writes, with the debt ceiling looming, should I move my retirement savings into something safer or follow my financial advisor's advice and just let it ride? I am 57 years old.
Well, I would say this. The debt crisis is probably going to be resolved before the markets open on Tuesday morning.
Well, they were certainly very optimistic on Friday.
Right. And so if you haven't moved it, you're not going to get a chance. And I would certainly suggest here is that at the end of the day, and I've read a couple articles which kind of it riled me up a little bit. But at the end of the day, we know that they're going to come to a conclusion, period. First, and a default is not actually all the faucets are turned off immediately. I mean,
right.
People get their Social Security benefits, veterans are going to get their pay, et cetera, et cetera. It's just the contractors are going to have to wait for the money until they come to a conclusion.
So, that's right.
So I was going to say, don't touch that dial. You know where to get us, 314-863-0008. We'll see you next week.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.